Hello everyone, here we are on set of Coffee with Kim, preparing for an incredible season 7. Join us. You're not going to believe who's stopping by for coffee.
And I've got the joy deep down in my heart. I'm waking up with your love from the start. I'm chasing the rainbow through the rain. I know it's gonna be a beautiful day.
Have you ever wondered if you or someone you love are too broken to be repaired? I know I have many times, and so has today's guest. This wife and mother of 3 boys is not a celebrity by the world standards, but she's a rock star by God's. She owns a small clothing and gift store called Fishtails that she purchased from a couple who had mentored her in her faith and business. She sees her store as a way of keeping Christianity and faith alive in her community. But her greatest contribution to the lives in her community and beyond comes from her greatest pain. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Coffee, conversations of friends of faith to encourage and equip. I'm Kim Crable, your host, and I'm so excited today to introduce you to a new friend of mine, Elaine Hynes. Elaine grew up in a toxic, alcoholic home. As a child, she was embarrassed to have her people over because she never knew what to expect at any given moment in her home. In her teen years, drinking became a way to ease her own shame and shyness at first, but then ultimately made it so much worse than she could ever imagine. At age 24, after a night of drinking way too much, Elaine cried out to God for help. The next morning, she reached out to a family member who had gone into recovery and had quit drinking, and that began an amazing road to recovery. Now, 27 years later, Elaine celebrates an alcohol-free life, but will tell you it's not always been an easy road. And when we return, with honesty and vulnerability, you will hear parts of her journey and perhaps find hope for your own. We'll be right back.
Tune in on Mondays for the Coffee with Kim radio show with special guests and inspiring stories that are sure to make an impact. Search for Coffee with Kim on uptomeradio.com or catch it on demand on kimcrable.org.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Coffee. Well, I know that you were leaning into that intro, and I am so glad because we have a message that maybe is for you or maybe it's for someone you know. And it's a very important topic, and that's why I brought my new friend Elaine in to talk. Welcome, friend.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you for having me.
I am so delighted to have you here having coffee with me, and I'm so delighted that I walked into your store. I was new to the area. I had just moved into this area. I'd been away for 20 years, came back, and I think yours was the first store I went into because it just looked so inviting.
We were so glad to have you walk into our store, and I never expected something so wonderful to come from meeting you and our friendship. Yeah. So it was a total God thing for me, which is a lot of God things have happened for me. And
I want to talk about some of those things. You know, on that topic, what I loved, and one of the things that I want our friends to hear is that we could have gone for 3 or 4 years and not had the friendship that we have. But I think both of us are the types that we've had things in our lives that we realize there's a depthness in people if you're willing to dive in. Mm-hmm. And we really kind of just dove into one another's lives, didn't we? I mean, we went deep, kind of like second visit.
We did, because you opened up to me, and so you made me feel comfortable because you shared something about your past, and I was like, well, you know, I can share something about my past, and I think that Kim would understand, and you did, and it, you know, and then we talked about it, and you know, probably a lot of people have things in their past that they struggle with, and you know, maybe feel isolated or alone because we're so guarded. We're all so guarded and want to put this, you know, perfect facade up. And our highlight reel, as I like to say, and you go deeper, and that's how we form connections, I think.
And that's the word, connection. Otherwise, you're just walking among people. But it's like to me, and I do remember sharing parts of my story because I brought my books in.
Well, your book has it, yeah.
And then when you share with me, I feel like that so many times we feel like, oh, we don't want to bother that person. They won't accept us if they know. But really, that is the bond that holds us together. And so, this program is about friendship. It's about going deeper, and it's also about releasing shame.
Yes.
Because once we were able to share the things that were inside, shame needs one thing to reside in us, and that is secrecy. And once we begin, if we have a friend and we can share with it, it's amazing how that just, you feel so much lighter, freer, and feel connected to someone. So let's go back to that second visit when we started going deeper. My perspective was I walked in, there's this cute store, I love it, it has all the things that makes me feel good, there's this cute little vibrant store owner, and it's like, oh, she never has had a bad day in her life. But then we started talking and we realized you were just like everyone else that I know and myself. It hasn't always been happy and wonderful, and you began to share with me what?
Well, I grew up in an alcoholic home, which a lot of people do. It's not just me.
Right.
And I had a lot of shame about that. I was self-conscious, shy, didn't want to invite people over to my home. But we looked really good on the outside, looking in. But, behind closed doors, it was something totally different.
Right.
And when I got to be a teenager, I turned to alcohol.
Because that's what you knew.
Well, exactly.
You'd seen
and that's was the coping skill I learned.
Exactly.
And so that's what I did. And it progressed, and it was, in high schools, it was, partying and that type of thing. But then it got worse. It didn't work for me anymore. At first, it made me not as shy. It made me feel better. It helped with my shame. But then it snowballed with more shame because I wasn't liking the person I was becoming. And so fast forward, I was 24 and...
in college?
Well, I dropped out of college.
Okay.
And that more shame.
Right.
It was like all these things were adding up, and I wasn't the person I wanted to be. So I asked God for help. And I really think that's key in getting better and releasing shame is humbling yourself and asking for help. And a lot of us don't want to do that. We think we can do it. We can figure it out. But in that moment, I had a moment of clarity. I feel like it was a total God experience. I was drunk at the time. I was, I'd been drinking, and I came home, and I was like, God, please help me. This isn't the way I want to live. And, I didn't want to continue down the road that I'd seen so many people go down. And so I did. I asked for help, and I think that was my turning point. And like he always does, he helps. I called a family member the next day and said, I don't want to drink anymore. I don't know what is going to happen. It was very scary because this is all I'd known since birth was drinking, from, watching it, observing it, doing it. And so I just took it one step at a time. And
what gave you hope that you could change? So what you just described there's this pattern of alcohol. From the moment that you realized an awareness, there was alcohol. And then you grew into it. And we develop the habits that our parents teach us as coping skills, whether it's anger or smoking or alcohol or something, very acceptable, whatever it is. We began to mirror that. So, Elaine, what was it that gave you hope, that made you think, was there someone that you had observed that had done it?
Yes.
That
My
showed
family
you.
member had had been in recovery from alcohol for 2 years, and I saw her life turn around.
Oh.
Yeah, and then when I started my recovery, the same thing happened. I saw people, laughing, and I mean that had these stories that were much worse than mine. That was humbling, because I was thinking, poor me, and then I, come to find out that I really didn't have it as bad as a lot of people, and so that gave me gratitude, and people who had it worse had recovered and were thriving in their lives, could laugh and were content and joyful after going through so much heartache and shame. And I held on to that. I was like, well, this might not work for me, but if it worked for other people, there's a possibility it could work for me. And so, one day at a time, I put pieces back together. I found, and I have to say that in recovery, that's where I found my connection to God.
That's what I was just about to ask you. You're reading my mind.
Yeah.
I was about to ask you is, how did God play in this? How did your faith?
Well, I always believed in God, and I knew there was a God, and I saw God, in other people, but I was too, I felt like I was too broken. I was, my situation was so shameful to me that I wasn't worthy, of His grace, or, I wasn't like a God person, and so when I stopped drinking and joined recovery, I saw people and their lives change, and I realized that I was worthy of His love and His grace, and that we all are.
Yes.
There's no one that is too broken for Him. And that is when I started receiving God. And ever since then, I pray. I see miracles happen all the time. Some bigger than others. Some are huge. I mean, like my store. I never envisioned myself being a store, a business owner. I mean, when I stopped drinking at 24, I mean, I felt like the biggest loser ever. I didn't think, anything positive could come from me. And,
That
so.
just breaks my heart. Can I just
know.
stop right there and just tell me, knowing the person that I know and love, and just, not have seen that side or those thoughts, it just makes me think about how many people who are listening right now, feel that same loneliness and isolation, and like they're not worthy, and because of some choices that they've made. And the thing about it is that it was a learned behavior, and it wasn't something that you grew up saying, I'm going to turn to alcohol every time it just happens. But what is so amazing is how the way we can trickle down into something like that and it not be intentional at all. We can be intentional about turning, making choices to be better.
But I think we have to be willing and ask for help. We cannot do it on our own. And that's another thing that I feel like how God draws us to Him is we're in situations that we can't master. We need Him.
Yes.
And we have to turn to Him because we can't do it.
It's
too
bigger than
big.
us. That's right.
It's way, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
And it's so amazing to me, and we somehow gather these mistruths in our mind and in our heart, and
like a weakness, like that we can't solve this problem.
Right.
And it's not a weakness.
Right. That's right. And it's like, for me, Elaine, for so many years, and I think that I'm hearing this from you, and I know from the counseling chair with so many people, that we think that we have to make ourselves better, then God's going to love us.
Yes.
And it's like, if we can stop this and stop that. And that's where I had to make my connection with God. I was doing everything that I thought should be doing to receive his love, and still didn't feel that connection. But then I stumbled upon the scripture of Matthew 11:28. Come to me, ye who are weary and broken. He invites the broken, the weary. And if you're broken, you know what weariness is. You know the shame, you know the guilt, you know the regret. And I think that breaks God's heart. And then we back off from him thinking that we're not worthy, where he's saying, come to me and I will give you rest. And that word rest, and this is, from my platform, rest means reversal. Burden means a task in waiting. And I think that you're such an incredible, inspirational mentor for any who would believe that, is that you took your brokenness, your weariness, and God did a reversal and took that which was burdening you, the alcoholism and all the many things that come along with that, and turned it around to where now you're such a voice of hope in this new community in which I'm living.
Well, and that has been my greatest, I guess, purpose or satisfaction, is being able to help others who suffer from alcoholism, and because I'm uniquely qualified, because I understand, because I am one.
Yes.
And I know there's hope, and there's a lot of people out there struggling. We have a God chapel in my store.
Yes.
That the previous owners have so graciously let me keep in the store, and so customers or whoever wants to come in can put a prayer request in there. And so when we're praying over the prayer requests, there's so many about addiction and alcoholism, from family members, friends, dear God, please help my son-in-law, please help my husband, please help my sister. And it's everywhere. I mean, I really feel like every family is touched by it in some way. And if I can offer hope, or if I can direct someone to a place or a person that can help, then that is my greatest privilege. And
I see that. And I see that in sure. One of the things that we had talked about that I want to make sure that we mention is the fact that you said, you were talking about how you grew up in this and you didn't want your family, your boys, because you have the 3 boys, you didn't want them to have to grow up in what you grew up.
Right.
Is that what kept you, it's been 27 years.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
27 years. There had to be some really tough moments in those 27
Oh,
years.
yeah. I mean, there's been some dark times.
Yes.
And that's
What
one
got
thing.
you through?
The connection to God.
Yes.
And I have that through recovery, my friends in recovery, and the program that I follow in recovery. It's it has kept me, sober, and I mean, I don't want to go back to that. I mean, there's, that's just not going to ever make anything better.
The drinking?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's,
It just sedates us for a short amount of time.
right. And it would be a relief, but that's, living life on life's terms is a gift of sobriety, and getting sober doesn't mean everything's going to be great. I mean, it's still life on life's terms, and there's still going to be heartache and tragedy and all the things that we have to struggle with. But I have different coping skills now, and I try to, be intentional with my health, and I know how to take care of myself. So it's, and it's a one day at a time thing. I can't think about, big stuff now. I mean, it's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Right. I mean, I just do what's in front of me, and take care of that. And tomorrow, I'll do tomorrow.
Right. I could give you the statistics of the people who are dealing with this right now. During COVID,
Oh, yeah.
It's escalated. I mean, we're right at a time where we're seeing people who have,
Mental illness and addiction, all that.
all of it. So there's someone out there who is struggling, who looks just like you. They look like, I mean, people would be amazed at the inner struggle that they're going through with alcohol or addiction or something. You know, they're doing it because they're just doing the best that they can right now. They're just trying to keep life going.
Yeah.
They have so many responsibilities, but yet they're being eaten alive by shame, guilt, and regret. What would you say to them, Elaine, just as a friend? What would you say to them?
I would just say that you're not alone. There are people out there going through the same thing, and there's help, but you do need to ask for help, because we're not going to know unless you tell us. And there are support groups and there are programs, but pick up the phone, let someone know, let someone in, because it's you don't have to go through this alone, and it's so much better on the other side with friends and people who know where you've been and who can offer you help.
That's beautiful. And on top of all that you've just said, you're presenting a new way to your family and your kids. You had someone that was fighting the battle that you tucked in your mind, and it gave you hope. And now you have become a symbol of hope, not only to your boys, to your husband, and to everyone who comes in your store. So I told you this was going to be a hopeful show, and it is. We're going to take a small break, and then we're going to come back, and I have a surprise for you. So we'll be right back.
Burdens to blessings, cherished, infinitely more, perfectly imperfect. These are just some of the many books, DVDs, and teaching series available on kimcrable.org. You can find all of her merchandise at kimcrable.org/shop.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee. Hasn't it been an incredible day? Elaine, just thank you so much for stopping by, and what a powerful message you have. There's nothing like someone who finds the courage to share what they've walked through so that not only other people receive hope, but, you know, God is glorified in this as well. So do you have a final message, something extra? I feel like there's something extra you want to leave with us today.
Well, one thing that I've held on to when I've been in very dark times since I've gotten sober and in recovery, because life happens, and there's, you know, a lot that's not in our control. And so when things look really bleak and I'm praying and I don't see a way, you know, and I remember He's the Waymaker. That there's a song that I love that preaches about that, and it resonates with me because I don't see a way. And then because God is God and can do all things, a way appears, and that's you know, something that I could have never orchestrated or done. And you know, so I just have to hold on until that happens. More will be revealed. You know, we don't know everything. And then also we just have to hold on and don't quit before the miracle.
Yeah.
And there's always a miracle.
Yes.
And if you just hang on and do the footwork, you can't just, you know, rest on your laurels and think everything's going to happen for you. I mean, you know, I have to reach out. I've got to, you know, attend to my responsibilities, you know, keep living. But you know, and there's so many times when I thought there's no way I can see the light again. And every time God comes through, and I'm just like, thank you, God. Why did I doubt? Why did I not have faith? But you know, and that just comes back to me. Don't quit before the miracle.
Don't quit before the miracle. I love that. And that's become your personal mantra.
Yes, don't quit before
the miracle.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, and you have it. And because of that, you are being, you know, people are noticing, and people are loving you even more. And do you know a guy named Charlie?
My husband.
My husband. Well, I talked to him last night, and I said, Charlie, what is it that you love about your wife?
Okay, now I'm going to cry.
Now she said, now you're going to cry. And he said, well, I could write a book about, now I'm going to cry. But he just said, so I have a few things. Because I love to honor people, especially those people who honor God and the people around them in such a way that you do. But he said, Elaine is always striving to be a better person. And she always is so positive. She truly believes that our best years are ahead of us. He says, Elaine is my best friend, and she is a wonderful friend, and is always ready to serve me and others. Elaine has been a wonderful mother and wife, and always tries to do the next right thing, which is, you've just said that all through. Just do the next right thing.
And I might not always know what it is, but I know what's wrong.
Yes.
You know, so
Yes.
I just, you know,
Follow.
until I know what it
Yeah.
is, you just keep, yeah.
Exactly. Which he goes on, he says, which can be difficult at times. She does the hard stuff. But then he ends up by this, and I love this. He says, basically, I just say, Elaine is my miracle. Her story is that of a survivor who will never give up on herself or others. And that is beautiful. And so, and I'm so sorry for the tears, but I'm not sorry for the tears, because they're such happy tears, and they can be tears for any and all of us. It takes that stepping out and saying, I deserve better, I am better. Alcohol cannot rule my life or no addiction, because God is bigger, and he is greater, and he does love me, and it's an unconditional love. And so, friends, I just hope that you take hope from this, because any of us could be an Elaine. Any of us could be an Elaine, and there are Elaines walking among us every day. Those too many of us who feel too lost, too broken, too late. And that's why I love your story so much, Elaine. This Elaine is living proof that no one is too broken or damaged to receive God's grace. She has experienced God transform her from an alcoholic, shy, introverted, wandering around, confused self to a joyful bearer of hope to all. A miracle, her husband says, and especially to those who suffer as she did, so quietly and with so much shame. I see firsthand many times the light as it comes on in other people's eyes as they've spent time with Elaine and her gracious, miracle-working God in her comforting fishtail store. So, as I told you, this was a story of hope, friends, and it's not only hope for you and me, but it is for you as well today. And I just hope that you will reach out and receive that hope today. All right, friends, well, thank you so much for joining us for coffee. It's been such an honor to be invited into your home. I hope you will tell a friend about Elaine's story of God's turning darkness and despair into light and into hope. I look forward to seeing you right here next time for coffee for another great conversation. Bye, everybody.
I'm waking up with your love from the start.